Hi, I'm Karceno.
Oh, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it.
No one knows Karceno and none of these.
There's so much going on in the world, and I'm just giving my 2 cents on it. Go in and do a raid at someone's house, but you don't have an arrest warrant for them. Welcome. Let's go do these sheets. A lot of these picks are professional by me, and a lot of these picks are my passion. So you do multiple sheets. Now, let's see how y'all did in March Madness. It's always somebody picking UConn, ain't it? Going for that three-peat. Oh, man. All right. Is it safe to say Auburn is going to beat Alabama State? St. Francis winner, right? Both of those teams, neither has a shot, in my opinion. Oh, yeah. It's easy to say that we can pretty much pick the number one in that bracket on that side, right? That's the West, that's the East. So Duke is number one over here, with the Houston being number one over here, and Florida's number one over here. Norfolk State will give Florida some game. I'm going to tell you that. But Florida's going to win, but they're going to get them some game. Norfolk State is actually better than a 16 seed. Florida actually got screwed there. Now, SIU Edwardsville versus Houston. I see Houston winning that one. That's a tough one for a little bit. But SIU's foul troubles will come back to haunt them. So I see all the number ones advancing out of the first round. Duke will beat no matter who that is they're playing. Right? Now, everybody's worried about Cooper Flagg's injury. It's uncertain about how bad his ankle is, and is he healed enough to play. He sat out the last 2 games, and overall, it's manageable. And everybody's going to pick the Duke Blue Devils to win the region. So, but I don't see anything that could really prevent a dramatic change here. I really don't see that happening. So for everyone else that's involved or looking at it, no, I don't see Duke winning the championship. I'm going to tell you how I got it going. Duke beating American, right? As it comes to Michigan State and Baylor, that's where you're going to find your tough matchup at. And I think Baylor is going to beat Mississippi State. Yeah, they can call this the go forward sheet. But this is my actual opinion. I think Baylor would beat Mississippi State. And you're going to end up with Baylor versus Duke. I think that Oregon will beat Liberty in a very close game. Akron should beat Arizona. Arizona is not that good to me, but I think Akron can beat them. So I have Akron going up against Oregon. Then BYU will beat VCU. Okay. Wisconsin against Montana. Now, that's what you need to be concerned about. But I think Wisconsin will limp their way through and end up playing BYU in the next round. St. Mary's and Vandy. I will take Vanderbilt over St. Mary and Alabama over Robert Morris. Now, let's get this going on. Now, St. Mary's in Alabama. I have Alabama beating St. Mary. I got Wisconsin versus BYU. I got BYU beating Wisconsin. So we got BYU versus Alabama. Alabama will beat BYU and go to the Elite Eight. Now let's get up here. Akron versus Oregon. I got Akron upsetting Oregon and going here. I have Baylor versus Duke. Duke beating Baylor going here. So Duke will play Akron, and I have Akron getting beat by Duke, and Duke goes to the Elite Eight, going up against Alabama. So Duke and Alabama, the number 1 and number 2, will end up facing each other. Okay? Where I have Alabama beating Duke and Alabama going right here to the Final Four. Now, let's come here. We have Houston versus SIU Edwardsville. Staying in the East. Houston will beat SIU Edwardsville, so Houston goes there. Gonzaga versus Georgia. I have Gonzaga winning that game over Georgia, so Houston will play Gonzaga. You have McNeese State versus Clemson. I'm taking McNeese State. Well, McNeese over Clemson. So McNeese will go to the next round. Purdue versus High Point. That's going to be a very close game. Very close game. High Point is better than you can ever imagine. But I'm going to take Purdue. So I got Purdue there. Now that one's a coin toss with High Point. Illinois versus either Xavier, Texas, or whatever. Texas, Xavier. Don't matter. Illinois wins that game. So Illinois goes here. Purdue, McNeese. Clemson's gone in the first round in my sheet. Kentucky versus Troy. Kentucky will beat Troy. So you don't have Kentucky versus Illinois there. Okay. UCLA versus Utah State. Okay. We have UCLA beating Utah State in a close one. Tennessee will beat Wofford. So we're going to have UCLA versus Tennessee down here. All right. Now, here's the way I have it playing out. UCLA will lose to Tennessee. Tennessee goes to the next round. Now, over here, we got Illinois versus Kentucky, where I think Kentucky beats Illinois. So now we got Kentucky versus Tennessee down here at the bottom. I damn well want to take High Point, but Purdue versus McNeese. And I got McNeese beating Purdue, and McNeese is going here. Then you have Gonzaga versus Houston. Gonzaga will lose to Houston. Houston will play McNeese. Yes. Okay, now that we got all that situated, here it is. Houston will play McNeese and beat McNeese, and Houston will go to the Elite Eight. Tennessee will play Kentucky, where Tennessee will beat Kentucky. So you got Tennessee versus Houston in this round. 1 versus 2. They're going to meet up in this round and play each other in the Elite Eight, where you're going to see Tennessee advance to the Final Four. So you're going to have Tennessee here, Duke here. So that's your east side. The east side is all done. Now we go out west. Mm-hmm. That's right. I'm really high on the McNeese train. Now, we go out west. Alabama will beat, we already went over that. Louisville and Creighton. This is the first time ever I'm not picking Creighton. I should not take Louisville, but it won't matter. I'm taking Louisville to face Auburn over Creighton. Michigan over UC San Diego, which shouldn't even be, but they'll win one game. I think San Diego can beat them. Texas A&M will lose to Yale. Yale will upset Texas A&M. Ole Miss will beat San Diego State or North Carolina, whoever they choose. Ole Miss will beat them. Lipscomb will barely lose to Iowa State. New Mexico will beat Marquette. Michigan State will be playing New Mexico in this bracket. So let's stay here. New Mexico versus Michigan State. Michigan State will beat New Mexico and advance to the next round. Iowa State and Lipscomb game, like I told you, that'll be close, but I got Iowa State going. They will play Ole Miss. Ole Miss will win that game. In my opinion, they're better than Iowa State. And Iowa State, to me, is overrated. And Ole Miss will advance, and they will play Michigan State. Ole Miss will beat Michigan. Ole Miss will lose to Michigan State, and Michigan State will go to the Elite Eight. Now let's go here. Texas A&M versus Yale. I already went through that. So it's Yale versus Michigan, even though I really think that can go another way. I have Yale winning that game and going to the next round. And then I have Alabama versus Louisville, where Auburn will beat them. Too much size. Then we got Michigan and Yale. So right here we got Auburn versus Yale. To see who goes to the Elite Eight, Auburn will be here. So we have 1 and 2 again, where Auburn will face Michigan State to see who goes to the Final Four. And the Elite Eight will be Auburn versus Michigan State. Now, here's what's going to happen. Auburn is going to lose to Michigan State. Michigan State will be in the Final Four. Florida versus Norfolk State, we know they got that. UConn and Oklahoma. I have UConn winning the game, barely. Memphis versus Colorado State. I have Memphis winning that game. Maryland versus Grand Canyon. I have Grand Canyon upsetting Maryland. Drake versus Missouri. I have Missouri beating Drake in the first round. Even though a lot of people have Drake as an upset pick, it's Drake. So I'm not ever rooting for Drake. So they're out first round. Now, Texas Tech versus UNC Wilmington. That one is going to be, that's a tough one. I don't really like Texas Tech game. They play a very weird, small game. They just luck of the schedule. I just don't think they're better than UNC Wilmington, but I'll give them a shot. They're a streaky team. I'll give them that, but I really don't think they can win. That's a tough one. I think UNC Wilmington gives them the business. There's no way they should lose to Texas Tech. But the way they seeded, it ain't going to matter anyway. I'm going to take Texas Tech. Arkansas and Kansas. That's a tough matchup. But I'm going to take Kansas to get out of the first round. So St. John's will be playing Kansas in this round. And I have Kansas getting beat by St. John's and advancing to the next round. So St. John's will be going up against Texas Tech or Missouri. I got Texas Tech beating Missouri. I don't know why, but if they play in Missouri, then yes, this is a good run for them. But I really don't think they could do that. If they're playing Missouri, I don't think they could beat Missouri. I do not believe in Texas Tech. Screw that. Missouri beating Texas Tech. They play in St. John's. So St. John's is going to go up against Missouri. Right? Now you got Memphis over here, Maryland versus Memphis. So Memphis will beat Maryland and get to the next round. Right? Florida's going to beat UConn in an epic showdown. But no, they're not. They're going to lose. UConn's going to beat them. Florida's not skilled enough to win down the stretch. UConn to get all the calls. So down the stretch, UConn is going to go to the next round, and then they're going to win again. And UConn at the 8th seed will make it to the Elite Eight. Now, when it comes to Memphis's reign, they will lose to UConn. Memphis versus UConn. So UConn at the 8th seed will make it that far. Now, they'll play St. John's. St. John's will beat UConn to advance to the Final Four. So my Final Four picks are Auburn getting their ass whooped by Michigan State. So we got Michigan State, St. John's, Duke, and Tennessee. Now, who wins this thing? Now, I think St. John's can beat Michigan State. But I'm riding with Michigan State. Michigan State versus Duke. In your championship game. And your national champions is going to be Duke. Duke will be your national champions as they beat Michigan State in the championship game. Now, Duke will be your champions over Michigan State. Yes, sir. Hell, someone knock off the South Carolina game. I don't even care. I want Drake eliminated in the first round just because it's Drake. Michigan got a tough go. They're going to have a tough run at it. So we're going to see how it breaks down when it keeps going. But Michigan State. A lot of things got to fall in place for that to happen. So we're going to see how it plays out. On my other sheet, I got Alabama winning the whole thing. So, but I know Alabama ain't going to win the whole thing. That's pride. I think Michigan could beat Auburn too. That's just a bad matchup for Michigan because Auburn got the size to beat them. Plus, here's the thing. This is all contingent on Yale playing Michigan. If Yale plays Michigan, Michigan's done. Let me tell you right now, if Yale plays Michigan, Michigan's done. Yale is going to beat Texas A&M. You could take that to the bank. Yeah, Michigan losing in the second round. As soon as they play Yale, they going home. If they play Yale, it's over. The parade is over. It's all about the matchups. So whoever wins in these brackets, it changed for the next rounds. I think my picks are pretty solid for the Final Four. They could. Now, I thought about that too. That's an even game. Like I said, that's a close one. I think Akron is better than what people giving them credit for. Everybody think Arizona's going to blow them out. I just don't think Arizona's going to blow them out. It depends on that whistle, though. Now, if they get whistled out of the game, then Akron will break down. And they start panicking and, the pressure get to them. But Akron can beat Arizona. Arizona don't shoot that well. You ever seen a team that don't shoot that well from three-point range but keep taking threes? That's Arizona. Oh, Akron is running gun. But they a well better shooting team than Arizona. Am I gonna do the women's Final Four? I haven't really thought about it too much. But if you want, we could do it. It'd be real simple. To me, it's simple. Okay, UCLA is going to win the first round. They got to play Richmond or Georgia Tech, right? So let's take a look at the women's. Okay, Richmond or Georgia Tech, and we're going to take Georgia Tech. Ole Miss or Ball State, we're going to take Ball State over Ole Miss. And then we have Baylor beating Grand Canyon. And then we have Baylor beating Ball State. Richmond versus UCLA. UCLA is going to win. So you're going to have UCLA versus Baylor. And in my opinion, Baylor will beat UCLA. I hope they do. I'm rooting for the women of Baylor. And the women of Baylor will beat UCLA, in my opinion. And Florida State versus George Mason will take Florida State LSU will beat San Diego State. Michigan State will lose to Harvard. NC State and Vermont. Oh, NC State will blow them out. And then we have Harvard versus NC State, where NC State will win. It'd be LSU versus Florida State. They'll beat them. Then they play NC State. Well, LSU will win that. So we got LSU going up against the women of Baylor. Over here, South Carolina versus Tennessee Tech. Of course, South Carolina beat them. Utah and Indiana. I think Utah will beat them. Alabama and Green Bay. I think the women of Alabama better win that game, but Green Bay will beat them. Damn. Green Bay, the women of Green Bay is going to beat Alabama. No, I just can't do that. Alabama winning. Maryland versus Norfolk State. I'm going with Maryland. Virginia versus Washington, Columbia, West Virginia. I'm taking Columbia, Washington at number 11 over West Virginia. North Carolina versus Oregon State. I'll be taking North Carolina. Vandy over Oregon. I'll be taking Oregon. Duke versus Lay. You got Duke. So you got Duke versus Oregon, right? In the next round. So Duke versus Oregon. I got Duke beating them. So Duke's in the next round here over Oregon. Now we come here. We got North Carolina going against Washington, Columbia, and definitely North Carolina will beat them. Now, did I just screw up? Oh, okay. Thought I did. Okay. Now, so North Carolina is going to play Duke. Guess who's winning that one, ladies and gentlemen? That's right, North Carolina. So North Carolina is beating Duke over here, and they're advancing. Now, let's move up the chart. Maryland versus Bama. Maryland will beat Alabama. You got Utah getting beat by South Carolina. So you got South Carolina versus Maryland, and this is all said and done. And South Carolina will advance to the Final Four to play North Carolina. South Carolina will beat them and advance to the Final Four. Now, over here, the women of Baylor is advancing to the Final Four as they beat UCLA. So we got Baylor on this side, South Carolina on this side. Let's go. Southern California, that's the number 1 seed down here, as they will beat UNC Greensboro, no problem. Cal versus Mississippi State. I have Mississippi State beating California, and Kansas State versus Fairfield. Ooh, man. The girls of Fairfield. Ooh, that's a tough one. Kentucky versus Liberty. Ooh. This is a good matchup. Hey, look, I'm going to tell y'all right now, for the women's basketball, This is a tough bracket. This bracket here is the toughest one. All these teams here is on the money. I'm telling you, like, these are the toughest matchups here. Fairfield playing against Kansas State. Fairfield could beat them easy. Oh my goodness, this is tough. UCLA is overrated, dude. They will be the national champions. They ain't getting by the women of Baylor. If they get the women of Baylor over there, Christian, my brackets win. My teams end up in the Final Four. Now we finna do the women's bracket. You probably thinking about the women's bracket, but no, this is a tough one here. I'm still stuck on Kansas and Fairfield. Kansas State and Fairfield? Damn. I bet Fairfield a lot this season. Damn. I'm going to take Fairfield. The hell with it. I'm taking Fairfield. Kentucky and Liberty, another tough one. I'm riding with Liberty. I'm just saying the hell with it. I'm getting Kentucky out of here and Kansas State. Iowa and Murray State. I'm saying the girls of Iowa is going to win. Oklahoma will win. Oklahoma State versus South Dakota State. Oklahoma State wins that. UConn wins over Arkansas State. Arkansas State will beat Oklahoma State. So they're coming here. You have Oklahoma versus Iowa, and Iowa will beat them. So you'll have Iowa versus UConn, where UConn will beat them, get to the next round. Southern California will be playing Mississippi State. They will beat Mississippi State. So Southern California will make it to the next round. And they'll be playing the winner of Fairfield and Liberty, which I think will be going out with Fairfield again. So Fairfield will be playing Southern California, which they will win in advance to play UConn. So it's going to be Southern California versus UConn, where it's going to be an epic showdown on this side. So we'll leave that there for right now. And we have Texas winning in the first round. The women of Illinois will beat Creighton, should. Tennessee versus South Florida. I'm going to go with Tennessee. Montana State over Ohio State, easy. Michigan versus Princeton or Iowa State, it doesn't even matter. The girls of Michigan will win that. It's not going to be easy because they're a mishap to happen in a long shot. Like the girls of Michigan, don't trust them. Notre Dame will lose to SFA. SFA will beat Notre Dame in the first round. That'll be a huge upset, but that's going to happen. Louisville over Nebraska. I got Nebraska over to Louisville. TCU will win, and TCU will be playing Louisville. Nebraska. So I got TCU losing to the girls to Nebraska, and Nebraska beating the number 2 seed for another upset. SFA will end up playing nobody other than the girls of Michigan, and the girls of Michigan will beat them, unfortunately. and they will advance to the next round. Well, they'll be playing Nebraska. And the girls of Michigan will advance over Nebraska and make it here. It's the sorriest team to make it all the way to the damn Elite Eight because of the upsets. Now, as we stated, as we came down here, right? Ohio State, Montana State, Illinois Creighton, right? We've already done these. So, Ohio State will be going up against Tennessee. Creighton don't even matter. They're all getting wiped out. It's going to be Illinois at the end going up against Ohio State, and they're going to win. So Texas is going all the way. So Texas will end up playing Michigan over here in this bracket, in this Elite Eight. Now, the winner will be Texas. So Texas will be number one in this bracket, and Southern California will upset UConn and put UConn out their misery. So we're going to have Southern California, Texas, Baylor, and South Carolina. 3 number ones and 1 number 4 in the Final Four. Now, Southern Carolina versus Texas, they're going to win. So Southern California will be in the championship game against who? Southern California. So South Carolina will play Southern California as Baylor will lose to Southern California in the Final Four, and they will end up playing each other. Well, the champions of the world will be Southern California. Southern California will win the national championship for the women's. That's your championship game. Southern California versus South Carolina. Now, that's the women's bracket. So that's what it is. Those are both brackets, the men's and the women. Now, when Karceno's right and he wins the championship, and you see what happens. Michigan State versus Duke, where Duke will win the national championship. And then you're going to see USC win the championship in the women's division and over South Carolina. And you're going to say, Karceno, what in the world is going on over there? Just remember, when this is all over, y'all got to come back here and see if Karceno was right. I'm out.